Yogi Bear is smarter than the average bear. Yogi Bear is always in the ranger's hair. At a picnic table you will find him there. Stuffing down more goodies than the average bear. He will sleep till noon, but before it starts, he'll have every picnic basket that's in jelly from Mars. Yogi has it better than a millionaire.
Hi, today I want to talk about bear safety, about keeping food safe from bears, your food away from bears. From my perspective, it's about keeping the bear safe. From your perspective, it's about keeping your food safe. So let me explain my history. I grew up in the 80s backpacking. I didn't grow up in the 80s, I wish I did. I'm old. But in my 20s, I did a lot of backpacking in Yosemite during the bear years, before the years of canisters. And I used to do a lot of backpacking in Hetch Hetchy area. And that was where they took the really bad bears from Yosemite Valley, put radio collars on them, and drove them up and released them around the Hetch Hetchy area. These were the worst of the worst. So, but that was where I got my training. We often slept in shifts, never slept in a tent. We slept with a pile of rocks by our head to chase off the bears every night. You knew they were coming because you'd hear the yelling at the other camps around the lake or wherever you were. It was nightly raids. Sometimes we slept under our tree if we weren't confident in our hang. But we always did the counterbalance method. And I'm proud to say I never lost a hang to a bear. I've seen lots of them lost. And whenever a bear gets a hang, that bear is going to keep getting worse and worse, and they're going to become conditioned and possibly destroyed. That's why this is so important, that everybody does this right. So I've had bears and bear cubs in my trees at night, ripping down branches, trying to skydive onto my bags. They've been unsuccessful. So that's hard to do. And it's not so much how your technique in hanging, it's selecting the right branch. And that's the problem with hiking in the high Sierra. The best trees for a bear hang is a downward sloping branch about 20 feet up on, that sticks out way out from the trunk. And at high elevation, you're not going to see that. Ponderosa pines, Jeffrey pines, those are the best trees for bear hangs. I'm about 8,000 feet right now in desolation, and all I'm seeing are red firs and ponderosa pines, or lodgepole pines. They're not great trees for hanging. So it's going to be hard to find a good tree. My camp spot's going to be designated by where I can find a good tree. The canisters are just so much better. But the reason I'm doing this video is I see a lot of people hanging, and I see a lot of bad hangs and illegal hangs. And people think it's safe and they're getting away with it. The reason they're getting away with it is because of responsible hikers. The use of bear canisters and people that are hanging their food correctly are discouraging the bears. They're not conditioned to people associating people with food anymore. So the occasional guy that just passes through, does an illegal hang, he might luck out because of what everybody else is doing. And if that bear gets your food, your trip is not only ruined, but that bear's life might be ended. So this is really important. So the other reason I'm going to talk about counterbalancing today. There's another method called the PCT method, the Pacific Crest Trail method. That's very popular. It's easier. You can use less cordage, but it can be defeated because you got a line hanging on the ground, or you got a line tied up to a tree. And I've watched bears chew lines, skydive to catch a line, climb on a branch and chew a line, grab a tied off line and just slash it or chew through it. They know, they've become smart, and they know how to get that. They know that rope has something to do with food. Sometimes in the PCT method, you have a line hanging straight down. They'll grab that line and just pull it so hard, they'll break off the branch and there goes your food. So I don't agree with that method. It does work. It's a pretty cool method. You can Google it or watch a YouTube video on it if you want to see how it's done. But the other reason I'm only going to go over the counterbalance method is that's the only accepted method in Sequoia Kings Canyon, in the areas that you can hang, which aren't many. I'm not going to tell you where they are because I don't want to encourage that. And I believe in the Enceladus Wilderness in some areas it may be legal to hang, but again, there's not a lot of trees that you can hang on anyway. In a pinch, you might have to do it, so you have to go stay lower down. You can't be near passes. And Sequoia Kings Canyon is only legal. They only allow counterbalancing. They'll fine you if you do the PCT method if they see it. And I actually agree that the counterbalance method, from personal experience, if done right, cannot be defeated 99% of the time. I won't say can't be defeated, because these bears are smart. The moms will send their cubs up. They'll work as a team. One will be waiting on a branch down below. The mom will push on the branch. It's amazing what they'll do. They'll chew off branches nearby. So, and the other thing about hanging your food or having a bear canister, to me, bears aren't the problem. To me, it's mice, squirrels, chipmunks, and marmots. They're the ones that are going to come after your food and chew your straps and things like that. So you got to be careful of those guys. And it's just so much easier to have a canister. I don't have the stress anymore. In Desolation here, I believe it's still legal to hang. But most areas it's becoming illegal to hang, and you have to have a bear canister. But there's a couple places in a pinch you might be overflowed where you might want to hang. So let's go find a tree to demonstrate a hang for you. Okay, so I found a tree. Not crazy about it. Like I said, these are all lodge poles right here with a few red firs right there mixed in. So that's a lodge pole there. What you're looking for is a branch that's pretty small, tapers down small, probably to about 1 inch towards the end. Something a bear can't walk on or can't easily get to. And you want it down sloping. So you'll see these branches are down sloping, and they're far enough away from the trunk. You want about 4 to 6 feet away from the trunk, because they'll climb the trunk. There's no trees nearby. They'll climb a nearby tree to try and reach it. They'll climb up to a lower branch and try and get up to it. So I'm going to be able to get this is going to be about 8 feet out from the trunk, and it'll be about 4 feet up from the branch that I hang it from, and about 10 to 12 feet off the ground. So that'll be good. So what's funny here, when I was scoping out this tree, how do you know if there's going to be bears in this area? Well, there's bears all over the Sierra. So I'm in the northern Sierra. Berries aren't ripe yet, so the poop looks a little different. But look what I found right under the tree. So that makes me more motivated to get this hang right. So we're going to get it right up there. So let's see if we can get a branch over there, or a line over there. All right, so I've got my 2 bags. You need 2 bags to counterbalance. You want them to weigh about the same. If they're not heavy enough, if you don't have enough food, it doesn't work very well if you have really light weight. You just throw a couple rocks in here. So dry bag's kind of nice, because if it gets rain, your food might not be waterproof. Everything I have is in plastic bags, but it's nice not to have soggy stuff. So I'm gonna get a line over this, and the way I'm gonna get it down, you're gonna have a big branch to pull it down, or your hiking poles. So some people use a throw bag. I don't want to get this isn't a very good one. It's net. It would stick on the branch. I usually just take a rock like this, wrap my line around it a couple times, and throw it over the branch. So let's see how good I am. I'm going to edit this to make it look like I got it on the first time anyway. So here we go. All right, when you're throwing your line over, make sure you grab the other end of it so that doesn't go right over the tree and get stuck up there. So here we go. This is throw number 1. Let's see if I can do it. Hey, not bad. Okay, so I would kind of like it more to be at the end. So I'm going to make it work down a little bit farther. Get it off of that one. I don't like how it's over on that one, so let's see if I can get it off. There we go. Beautiful. All right, that's good right there. So now I'm gonna attach my first bag. So I swear to God, that was my first throw. It's not that hard, really. But I'm in a mosquito-infested field. I would much rather you be sitting with my bear canister soaking my feet in a creek right now than doing this stuff. But you gotta do what you gotta do. All right, so I got my bag attached. And I'm gonna pull this one up all the way up to the top. You gotta be careful not to get stuck on the branch. So don't go all the way. You don't want to get attached to anything. And this is where a tall friend comes into play, or a rock, or getting on somebody's shoulder. So let me readjust here to show you the next part. All right, so with your bag all the way up at the top, you take your second branch. There's a nice rock to stand on. I'll try this. You want to get as high, tie this one up as high as you can. And it's a pain in the butt. So, like I said, a tall guy comes in handy right now. Get this up as high as you can and secure it. Okay, so that's on there. Now you got this extra rope. You're going to tuck all that in to your bag. You don't want rope hanging. Bears will see rope, they'll slash it. All right, to kill some time while I'm doing this, there is a company called Gravity that sells something for this cord called Spectre cord that's 750-pound test. Supposedly, it's harder for bears to grab. I think it's called Anti-Gravity or something, the name of the company. They sell it as a bear kit. And I do like the idea of a thinner rope. I'm not sure if it'll damage trees, but you might look into that, anti-gravity. So now I got my loop on the bottom. This is so I can reach this with a stick and get it down. If you forget to put this, you might lose your food. So you don't want it too low because you don't want a bear to be able to grab it either. So now the idea is to slide this up. So I'm going to kind of throw it up and hope they get kind of even. They're not quite even. See how they're kind of wrapping? So now I take a long stick or my hiking poles and get them even. So I'm going to just push this up a little bit. There we go. So I'm 6'3". So this is that's about 11, 12 feet. That's about where you want it. And yeah, that looks safe. Bears aren't going to be able to climb out there. And you see how you got to be careful it doesn't wrap. So that's a good hang. It's going to be tough for a bear to climb up there. Now to retrieve it the next day, if it's still there, this is where your loop comes into play. So I'm going to take my hiking pole or my stick and get my loop. Get up on my rock. Get a hold of that. Oh. And I got all my extra cord. So now I just pull this down. Untie this. Alright, the beauty of editing. So I've got this untied. I just want to get away from here a little bit so it doesn't just drop straight down and get tangled. And you let your other one down. That's it. That's counterbalancing. All right, a couple things I forgot to mention. Where should you do your bear hang? It should be downwind of your camping spot, and your cooking spot should also be downwind of your camping spot. So, everything that goes in there includes fishing gear, fishing bait, sunscreen, lip balm, toothpaste, anything that stinks, repellent, that all needs to go in there. But that's yet another reason to use a bear canister, because you can have it right there. So put all that stuff in there, and I like to bring my pack inside my tent, even though there's not going to be any food in there. But if I have to leave it out, I'll leave it under my rain fly or just out in the open if it's not going to rain. But I always undo all my pockets, leave everything wide open, because bears will come in and stick their head in there just to see if there's food. But even worse is mice and rodents will chew into things. So one last thing, I'm always advocating multi-use things. Like the bear bag I used was a dry bag. I use that to keep my sleeping bag dry in case of heavy rain, and it also comes in handy as a bear bag if I need to use it for that. So speaking of double uses, I love my flip-flops at the end of a hike. So these are great around camp, and they can open up a beer bottle. So pretty important. Anyway, cheers, happy trails.
Oh boy, do I love bears. You can bet your life that I do. There ain't nothing anywhere like a big black bear, long as he's a mile away from you. Well, the first time I went camping, just a knapsack on my back, I hiked 10 miles into the bush with a buddy by the name of Jack. And old Jack, he was an expert. He'd been camping for a whole lot of years. So all we took was some fishing gear, a skillet and a dozen beers.